Hi, my name is Ryan Salas. This is my author discussion, and I will be doing it on James Baldwin. So, James Baldwin was born August 2nd, 1924, and died December 1st, 1987. He grew up in Harlem, New York, where at that time was a very rough city, which kind of, I guess, pushed him to do what he did. During his high school years, after high school, he would be an after school preacher at a small church in his area. And as he grew up, he became a forefront leader in the civil rights activist group. He was an American novelist, essayist, and playwright who focused a lot on racial issues. For the civil rights activism, he was very prominent in the 1950s and 60s. So, a little bit about his work. Other than just civil rights, which, like I said, he was a forefront leader for that. He talked about it. He wrote about it. He was a speaker for them, and a lot of his writings did reflect on racism. But something that his writings also were talked about was the gay rights movement and his advocacy for homosexuality. Some other things he discussed in his work were organized religion and white nationalism. Um, so during the civil rights activist time period, um, he actually moved to Europe and came out as a homosexual. But he did continue to come back and forth between Europe and the United States to, I guess, further the work that they were doing there. So I titled this page "The Black Community from a Different Perspective" because although he was a huge advocate for civil rights, another thing that he advocated for, like I said, was homosexuality. And like I said, he did come out as a homosexual. He was one of two main writers who would talk about homosexuality, and he talked about it more towards the Black community. Um, so his writings, a lot of them are looked at as civil rights issues, and a lot of his homosexuality work gets overlooked, even though, like I said, he was before his time for the gay rights, but he pushed and he, I guess, fought for that even before people were fighting for it. And this is actually one of his main themes that he did write about was the homosexuality in general and more focused on the Black community. So this is a quote from him. It says, "The American ideal, then, of sexuality appears to be rooted in the American ideal of masculinity. This ideal has created cowboys and Indians, good guys and bad guys, punks and studs, tough guys and softies, butch and black and white. It was an ideal so politically infantile that it is virtually forbidden, as an unpatriotic act, that the American boy evolved into the complexity of manhood." I believe that what he is saying with this quote is there's really no middle ground, and being gay was so small and so, I guess, forbidden in this time that a lot of people really, really did look down upon it. And he was just a huge advocate for this. He talked about it. He talked about what it was to be gay. He talked about how we should treat gays. He talked about a whole bunch of things for the gay activist community, um, and being a black man and how it affected him as a black man. Because in this time, um, as we know from our readings and as we know from just looking at history, it was hard being black. They didn't have the same rights. It was hard to be who you really were in this time because it felt like they were being oppressed. And then to add on to it, especially for him, being gay, it was another thing that kind of went against the social norm and the social construct that people had built back then as, I guess, normal. So I believe that he did this because even though he was a huge civil rights activist, he knew that there was more that could be done for the black community and the homosexual community as a whole. So throughout his life, he endured a lot of hardships and fought through those and talked about them and fought for people who didn't have the same voice as him because, let's face it, there weren't a whole lot of people who were on the forefront of the civil rights activist groups. You had like the big speakers and then you had the people that they were fighting for, and that's what he was doing, not only for um, the African American community, but also the gay community. And I believe that his writings reflect this, and his writings talked about what he needed to do and what we needed to do as a whole to further our civil rights and to further the gay community. That is all. Thank you.